Welcome to Static Budgets Part 4. This ACLID is a continuation of Static Budgets Part 3. By the end of this ACLID, you should be able to prepare a direct materials purchases budget. We'll continue to use BBB Company as our example. In addition to the original information we were given, we now also have the production budget to work from. Our objective is to prepare a quarterly direct materials purchases budget for BBB for the year 2029. We'll start with the usual three-line heading, company name, report title, and date. The report title is Direct Materials Budget or Quarterly Direct Materials Budget. The date is for the year ending December 31st, 2029. Since we're preparing a quarterly budget, we need labels for a number column for each quarter and one for the year. And again, since we'll need some 2030 data eventually, we'll unofficially store it in the adjacent column. We know from the data we were given that the only material needed to make a trainer stand is metal, and the metal is measured by the pound. We'll use the upper left cell to note this. 1 unit of material equals 1 pound of metal. If our product required more than one direct material, we would need to prepare a separate direct materials budget for each direct material. Now we have good news and bad news. The good news is that the middle of the direct materials budget is mechanically identical to the production budget. The bad news is that the direct materials budget requires 2 extra rows at the top and 2 extra rows at the bottom. Our direct materials budget starts with the number of units of product that we expect to produce in each quarter. So the first line comes from the production budget, units of product to be produced. Remember that this budget is about pounds of metal, so we use the next line to convert the stands, the units of product, into pounds of metal, or units of material. The line label is units of material per unit of product. How many pounds of metal does it take to make one stand? 3.2 pounds. Now we can multiply quarter 1 units of product, 650 stands, times 3.2 pounds of metal per stand to get 2,080 pounds of metal. We will need 2,080 pounds of metal to make the 650 stands in quarter 1. The line label is units of material needed for production. We'll do the same math across the row. The next 4 rows follow the same patterns and use the same math as the production budget. Yes, we need 2,080 pounds of metal to produce the 650 stands, but we also want to have some metal left on hand at the end of quarter 1 so we can continue production early in quarter 2. So the next line label is desired ending inventory. Usually, we estimate our desired cushion or ending inventory by taking a percent of next quarter's expected metal needs. In this case, we're told that BBB wants 20% of next month's needs to be on hand at the end of each quarter. So at the end of quarter 1, we want 20% of quarter 2 needs. 20% times 3,680 units of material equals 736. Our cushion at the end of quarter 1 is 736 pounds of metal. We follow the same process to calculate the desired ending inventory for the remaining quarters. Notice that we need quarter 1 2030 metal needs in order to calculate quarter 4 2029 ending inventory. Also notice that we're leaving the year column blank for now. We'll come back to this in a minute. So in quarter 1, we should buy the 2,080 pounds we expect to need for production, plus the 736 pounds we want to have on hand as a cushion at the end of the quarter, right? Well, yes, but we had some metal on hand at the start of quarter 1. So our next line label is beginning inventory, and when we get the amount, we'll subtract it from the pounds we need to buy in quarter 1. To calculate the beginning inventory for quarter 1, consider this. Quarter 1 beginning inventory has to be the same as the previous quarter's ending inventory. You already know how to calculate ending inventory. Take 20% of the next quarter's metal needs. Quarter 4 2028 ending inventory equals 20% times Q1 2029 needs. 20% times 2,080 pounds of metal equals 416 pounds. Q4 2028 ending inventory, 416 pounds of metal, equals Q1 2029 beginning inventory, 416 pounds of metal. So Q2 beginning inventory is Q1's ending inventory. We already know this amount, so we pop it in. And we can do the same for the rest of the quarters. Once again, notice that we've left the year column blank. We'll get back to this in a minute. Finally, we can calculate the number of pounds of metal we need to buy for Q1 production. Units of material needed for production plus desired ending inventory minus beginning inventory equals 2,400 pounds of metal needed to be purchased for production. We can do the same math for the rest of the quarters. Notice that we have still left the year column blank. Now we're ready for the year column. It's important to think of the year as a whole. For the year 2029, what is our desired ending inventory? How many pounds of metal do we want to have on hand at the end of the year on December 31st? 2,432 pounds. Since Q4 is the last quarter of the year, Q4's ending inventory is also the ending inventory for the year. For the year 2029, what is the beginning inventory? How many pounds of metal are on hand on January 1st? 416 pounds. Do the math down the year column as you did for each quarter. Units of material needed for production, 20,480 pounds, plus desired ending inventory, 2,432 pounds, minus beginning inventory, 416 pounds, equals 22,496 pounds of metal to be purchased in 2029. 2 lines to go. We now know how many pounds of metal we need to buy each quarter. The next step is to figure out how much the purchases will cost us. So the next line label is cost per unit of material. We are told that the metal costs $1.25 per pound, so we can enter this across the row. The final line is cost of materials to be purchased. When we multiply 2,400 pounds of metal to be purchased in Q1 times $1.25 per pound, we get $3,000. Turns out that the total expected cost of metal for the year 2029 is $28,120. This concludes the ACLET Static Budgets Part 4.